Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the EFL Magazine podcast. Today's guest is Harrison Fowler. Harrison moved from the US to Spain in 2015 for a life-changing gap year teaching abroad. During that first year, he met his wife, and not long after, he founded RVF International in Madrid. Since then, RVF has helped nearly 2,000 people make the move to Spain, and its mission is to continue supporting and empowering even more adventurers on their journey abroad. I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Hey everyone, buckle up for a new episode of the EFL Magazine Business Podcast, the one and only podcast made to help you launch your business or take your existing business to a level of success you could never have imagined. Whether you're a school owner, freelancer, publisher, or other entrepreneur, you're sure to pick up lots of actionable advice when you listen to the EFL Magazine Business Podcast. Remember to visit eflmagazine.com for great articles and features. Without further ado, here's your host, the founder of EFL Magazine, Philip Pound.
Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the EFL Magazine podcast. And this morning, wherever you are, I'm delighted to introduce Harrison Fowler from RVF International. Harrison is the founder and program director of that fine company. Good evening, good morning, Harrison. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you, Philip. I appreciate the time. Happy to chat with you today.
And the name, were you named after Harrison Ford? Is that correct?
I wish it was something that cool. So I think it was just kind of an old school name that my parents liked. But yeah, same initials, Harrison Fowler, Harrison Ford. So I like to take credit for that. Yeah.
I don't mean to flatter you, but you have a little bit of resemblance to him.
Okay, there we go.
In the earlier, have people said that to you?
No. They usually say, I maybe get like a Matt Damon reference here or there if they're being kind. So.
Well, actually, you do when you mention it now. The Matt Damon part,
yeah,
that's
hilarious.
It does look like it.
Yeah,
and you're in Kentucky. So just before the podcast, we had a brief chat. We didn't waste all our talk, but or use up all our talk. So Kentucky today, you're looking at late summer, isn't it? Well, I suppose August is late summer, isn't it? Late August, late summer, and steamy, hot.
Yeah, steamy, hot. But I'm kind of used to it because this is where I'm from, which is just crazy that, from Kentucky to Spain, this, exchange program abroad. But my wife and I, she's from Spain, so we kind of live in both worlds depending on what's going on. But yeah, very hot, steamy, and definitely looking forward to the fall. So Kentucky is a cool place. It's not on many people's radar, which I think is why it's kind of like a hidden gem in a lot of ways. I love it. It's beautiful. The people are kind. And you can definitely your dollar goes really, really far. You can buy like a big house just for little bits of money, have lots of land. Like we're surrounded by forests and it's just awesome. We have 2 little girls, so they're just growing up in the woods, which I think is pretty cool.
Actually, I have had another guest from Kentucky, Leah Sparrow. So hello to Leah if you're listening.
Awesome.
She's also in, as you mentioned, horses and horse from stud farms is a big part of the Kentucky life, Kentucky economy.
It really is, though. I was just telling you before we came on just how we're surrounded by horse farms, just like racehorse farms, and definitely a lot of farms when the horses retire, which they retire like at 3 years old or something, then they just live the rest of their lives in these like really spacious, beautiful farms. And there's just like a ton of them right next to where we are. So it's really cool. I mean, the girls love them. So.
Yeah, horses have a good life, don't they? Thoroughbred horses, anyway. I'm sure pit ponies don't have such a good existence. But,
no, probably not. But the Kentucky ones do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're kept well. They're kept care of well. So I wanted to talk to you about you grew up in Kentucky. That's originally where you're from, and you spread your wings then, and you decided to go abroad. Was it I'm kind of moving on to where you started the company, how you got to Spain, what took you to Spain?
Yeah, so it's definitely a wild leap. So I'm from Kentucky originally, and I studied Spanish at the University of Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is just like an hour and a half north of Kentucky, where I'm from in Louisville. And like, I've always been fascinated by Spanish. I've always been kind of good at it and was really interested in Spanish speaking people and just chatting in Spanish with friends. I went to the Dominican Republic a lot of times, and not on vacation, but like mission trips and different things growing up, and had a ton of good friends there, and just chatting with them on Skype and Facebook, and just love Spanish. And my final semester of college, I did a study abroad in Madrid. And that's where fell in love with the Spanish life. I actually met my wife literally on that study abroad trip, which is crazy. We got married 2 years later. She's from the Canary Islands. And that's just kind of how I made the leap from the US to Spain, is just falling in love with the country and the culture and meeting my wife. And then I needed a way to come back. So I went down the rabbit hole like many people have, especially that join our program, of like, how do I move to Spain? And then teach abroad programs was the obvious thing that came up for like a young American, recent college grad, and applied to every single program that I could possibly find. And that's also kind of part of our story. It was a very bad experience just interviewing with these companies. I had never taught before. This, in a lot of ways, was going to be my first job. And I just felt a lot of them were Spanish companies, and Spain is definitely not known for their soft touch or like being, customer service or support. And so a lot of them were, asking me for experience that I just didn't have. And we're just very, like, we don't have the time for you. I mean, these are actual companies where you can go and still apply today to teach English. And they just worst kind of sorts of responses. Just, how am I ever going to get abroad? And I found this other company where I had to pay all this money. And I got an email just a few weeks later saying, okay, this is your school in Spain. And so my whole process of moving abroad was just pretty clunky, which was like a light bulb moment, I guess I kind of stored to make our program a lot smoother and a lot more like of a human touch. But I came in December 2015 to work out of school, and mostly just so that I could be with my wife, Alejandra, and figured out that, I loved teaching and I loved being in this world. And just more light bulbs were going off as I kind of navigated this new teaching job as a young 22, 23-year-old guy from America, from Kentucky in Spain, and recognized that this is the most amazing experience. But all these programs, this whole process of navigating, of even getting here, is just so bad. And it just really burns a ton of people. There's no support, there's no guidance. And so that's kind of all those things together were just like, I think, stewing for a while. Like, hey, there's a better way to do this. Let's actually like talk to people, connect to people, walk them through this process, give them a plan, give them a vision, be the friend that they didn't have. And so I'm kind of jumping ahead, but that's literally just like what led me to Spain. It was a study abroad, met my wife, came back on a teach abroad just to get a visa so that I could stay with her, and then realized, oh, I just kind of entered this whole new world of ESL that I didn't really know it was a thing. And like, let's kind of unpack it a little bit and see if there's a way to like, repackage it, I guess.
Okay, so that was the genesis of RVF. But your
Yep.
first impressions of going to Spain. I suppose one question I have is now, and it's very much in the news, not just in Spain. Well, you mentioned the Canary Islands, but also here in Japan, is over tourism. How have you seen that arc over the last 10 years?
I've definitely seen, so I mean, it's been a steep, I guess, kind of decline, because it's not been positive for some Spaniards in some big cities. And so it just out of nowhere, I definitely say like in the last 6 months, year and a half, it's gotten really, really bad. I mean, I get ever since COVID, basically, because I think COVID made a lot of people want to like utilize their time better and travel and do the things that they want to do because we're all on lockdown. But I mean, I feel it for my team. One of our team members just spent the last 2+ months every single day for hours trying to find an apartment where he lives on the east coast of Spain. And it took him over 2 months to find an apartment, just because most people are renting them out as Airbnbs, which I get, that it's their apartment or whatever, but you just from like a local point of view, it's just like, it's just hard to find a good place. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't feel like my voice or my perspective matters on it because I'm not Spanish. I'm not from there. But I know from the people that I know and love in Spain, I know it's definitely been like a challenge for them, just because it's hard to find anything that's not like a short-term rental.
Yeah, and there's been added pressures, hasn't there, on younger people and college graduates. With there's been a quite high unemployment rate, and cost of living
Yeah.
has gone up, and harder for people to get on a what we call a property ladder, or get
Yep.
good accommodation, isn't it? It's hard to actually get started off in life.
It is. It's very different in the United States. That is absolutely true. And so and it breaks my heart too, just because as we interview as a company and try to find people, we always want to find people that are in Spain, obviously because we're a Spanish program. But and no knocks on any of these sorts of careers or jobs, but a lot of the people that we'll talk to might have two masters, undergrad, two masters. They're from Spain. They couldn't find work in Spain, and now they're working at a clothing store in Berlin because that was the only job that they could really find. And they're so qualified, so educated, but there aren't opportunities for them. And so a lot of people that have good paying jobs in Spain are people that are maybe working with like an international company that is able that needs like a presence in Spain or something, which is cool, which is great. But yeah, locally for a lot of young people right now, it's definitely not something to write home about, I guess I could say. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. So, as a contrast or comparison, we look at the US and where a lot
Yeah.
of your students, clients come from. Uh, so, obviously, the US is such a large country, such
Yeah.
variation, isn't there, regionally, statewide? But there's we've heard over the past few years about student debt, isn't it, and the
Yeah.
price of college,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
people, and obviously the price of accommodation, more people staying at home, and until their 20s,
Hmm.
30s.
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Is that like that in Kentucky, or a little bit better, or what's the situation?
So I think it's pretty uniform across the country. And yes, people, the kind of the university pipeline. No knocks on university pipelines, but not everyone needs to go to college for 4 years to do something. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think I was an example of someone that could have benefited maybe from not going to college. Like it obviously worked out great for me. I'm very grateful, but I didn't need to go to college for 4 years to like get a Spanish degree. Like I could have, done a gap year myself and kind of fully immersed myself and have left with no student loans or anything. But yes, I mean, it's pretty standard across the board. Just unfortunately, the cool thing and the great thing about the United States is that there's um, the ability to get a massive shovel to dig yourself out of a financial hole with a job or with a career. I mean, there are so many opportunities here. When I was in college, or when I was in high school, and when I was in college, I delivered pizzas for Papa John's and then for Domino's, and I made so much money as a college kid. I mean, as in Domino's, I was making $3,000 a month, probably just working 30 hours a week as a college kid in my own car, pizza when I wanted to eat it. And so I mean, that would be very hard to find in some other places like Spain, like a job like the equivalent of delivering pizzas 30, not even full time, where you can make that equivalent of money. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, which is why it's good that we have a lot of young people that like join our program, go abroad and see other ways of life that are incredible. And like Europe has so much to offer, so much rich culture and history, but like they're different economies, different cultures, different languages. It's good for them to get that sort of perspective, so that when they come back, maybe they're a little bit more appreciative of the fact that they can, kind of just quote unquote go pick up a job, which depending on the career field can be hard, but like especially in Europe, it's just not that easy.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit about you. So you mentioned when you
Yeah,
first came to Spain, and before the podcast mentioned the
yeah,
entrepreneurial journey. We said we talk about this, and
yeah,
uh, you found there's some deficiencies, some cracks, let's say, that
yeah,
there wasn't the full service, or it wasn't as smooth
yeah,
to
definitely.
get a job, integrate, find your
Yeah,
footing in Spain.
yeah,
And So tell me about your experiences there. Do you have any stories about like difficulties you had? Was it with red tape, bureaucracy?
Yeah,
Obviously,
completely.
language wasn't a big factor for you.
Yeah, great question. So there are a couple. And so I remember interviewing while still being in Cincinnati in college with one of these programs. I won't name drop, but their Spanish program. And for whatever reason, part of their interview process that I still don't understand is that you have to read a whole online packet about their specific company. You know, when they were founded, how many people that they help, just like how many employees they maybe have, just stuff that I honestly think is just useless. And then they interview you on your ability to like know that information about their company. And I guess that's their vetting process, but it's kind of pointless. And so I had read that information, but I kind of like actually forgot some of the facts because it was useless information that had nothing to do with this teaching position about this small little company in the north of Spain. And during the interview, she was asking me some questions, and I got one or two wrong. And she said, "Stop, stop, stop." She interrupted me. She goes, "I'm going to end the Skype call right now. You're going to go study for 10 more minutes, and then you're going to call me back, and we'll see how this goes." And I was just like, well, okay. And I wanted this job so that I could be with my, future wife. And so I was willing to do it. But that was just like, that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, one, that's just incredibly rude and disrespectful. And that's not how you should treat anyone. But two, it's like, what are we doing here? And so, that part of what we do in our process is like we don't actually interview people. We have two face-to-face calls with them, but they're just conversations. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to get out of this experience? Why do you want to come to Spain? Like, let's see how we can fit into that and support you. We're not the end all be all. Like, your adventure abroad is the end all be all. And so, but once again, that falls in the category of just how a lot of Spanish businesses operate, and they just in the U.S. things just do not operate that way. It's like there's definitely more of a hey, customer's always right, like even if they're not sort of approach, which I don't even agree with that mentality because that's definitely not true. But that idea of just like we're going to treat you a little bit with with some dignity, and so that was a huge moment for me. I remember opening my bank account in Spain, which was an incredibly intimidating process. And I felt comfortable in Spanish at the time, but I remember there was no help with this process of opening up a bank account, but I needed a bank account so I can get paid. This company said, go to this bank and you can figure it out there, sort of thing. They'll help you, which is not true because the program might have thought that this bank would help me, but the Spanish person behind the desk, I guess what I'm trying to communicate in hopefully an unoffensive way is that not every country goes above and beyond in business to like accommodate their customer. Spain definitely is not known for that. And so I'm standing in line with 20, 30 Spaniards behind me, like getting one person closer and closer to the desk, going like, I don't know these account numbers. This is like weird terminology that I don't feel comfortable in. This is going to be so embarrassing because everyone behind me is going to know, because it's like you could hear a pin drop in the place. They're all going to know that I'm struggling. And that's exactly what happened. It was like a super awkward exchange. They didn't understand what I was asking about. The bank the account that I was told to open there, they like, we don't have this. And I'm like, well, I have it right here saying that you do. Like, we don't do this anymore. And like, kind of going back and forth. And with part of our program, what we do is we have like a lot of really cool online options that you can just do from your phone. You don't even have to leave your apartment. Open these online banks. Like that they speak English, these services. And so that was definitely, in hindsight, just opening a bank account, is that a big deal? No. But like when you're 22, 23, a foreigner in a new country, like you don't feel comfortable or confident, like that was incredibly intimidating. So that was definitely something else for sure. And then
having your language tested in public as well is always fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure you probably feel the same in Japan, occasionally. And so it's just, and especially when you have a live audience, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I want to do right now. And so that was definitely challenging. And I mean, I could just rattle off a whole bunch of other things.
I'm sure we've all been there. I think in the past, someone my age as well. And what you find is, when I think as I get older now, I don't put up with these things anymore. You just become more curmudgeonly. You could have that argument, but when you're young, out of college, early 20s,
Yep.
you just feel that you have to put up with these things. It's a rite of passage, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
that you should, but you shouldn't have to deal with this sort of.
Exactly. What I should have done in that interview with that person has been like, this is obviously we're not a good fit for each other. And so like like have a good day. I'll see you later. I'm going to apply to another program. But you do when you're young, like you feel like I need this, so I need to play the game. I'm going to put up with it because how else am I going to get from A to Z? Which is not true. Like there's a ton of ways to get to A to Z. It's never just like black and white.
Yeah, you can see the point, but it's almost like they've taken something that's useful, necessary, or that a candidate should know about companies, for example.
Hmm.
So, having worked in recruitment, sometimes candidates would arrive to interviews and they know absolutely nothing about a company.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
that's a gross sin, but to actually know on a granular level everything about the company or as much as possible is not necessary, is it? It's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And just what she should have seen is like I had done my research, but I was just naturally stumbling on my words, slightly intimidated by the process, wanting this job, like and so yeah, to your point, absolutely. It's their kind of their vetting process. But what I'm so glad that that happened because like it showed me how to like kind of approach this. So a lot of these programs I think are approaching this more from like an education academic approach, which is I don't which is great for some people, but for the people that join our program, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for an adventure, an experience. They want to be part of a story. And so we really gear our kind of, gap year experience, our program to like in those terms, which I think really appeals to people.
so we've seen the problems that you had and that what they call the hassle factor, isn't it? Is if you can
Yeah.
deal with a hassle factor in business,
Yep.
you've got a good idea for business. So the light bulb started well, not popping, but
Yeah.
they started going off, and you're saying,
Yeah.
okay, how how could we mentioned how things are bad, so you've addressed those, but
Yep.
it's not just plugging the gaps, is it? It's going above and beyond and offering a service that
Yep.
we're will excel and
Completely.
is unique or a unicorn maybe. So
Yep.
you came about you looked at the needs of the consumer in the or the
Yep.
client in Spain and the aspirations of, let's say, the students in the US
Yeah.
and wherever you recruit from, and how
Yep.
you can make it better. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So bureaucracy is a huge aspect. No one likes paperwork. No one likes bureaucracy. Administrative stuff. Spain. I feel like I'm knocking Spain so much, but I mean, my children are Spanish. My wife is Spanish. My in-laws are. I love the country of Spain, but bureaucracy wise, it's very, very, very dense and heavy and incredibly difficult to navigate if you don't know what you're doing. Um, like on a scale that I think most people that have never entered this world, like you've been abroad, you obviously you live in Japan, but you know, like, okay, not every country operates the same level with paperwork and stuff. Spain's just on another level. And so one of the things that we do is we just take care of all the administrative stuff that needs to happen, getting, residency, visas, permanent residency cards after you arrive, like all that stuff we take care of from day one, completely down to like filling out forms and translating paperwork and guiding you through things that we legally can't do, like sign your name here on this dotted line, upload it here, sort of thing. Whereas when I was with this program initially, and this was in 2015, and instead of helping us with the visa process, they just sent us all a YouTube link that was like 8 or 9 minutes long from a year or two before that was already outdated information. And I followed the very few facts that were like in the video. And now in hindsight, like looking back at the visa process, I made so many mistakes and I went down so many rabbit holes that I didn't need to go down because that was like invalid information. Like I had multiple different background checks from all these different places that I didn't need to do and whatnot versus our director of compliance and research is used to be one of the admissions coordinators at IE Business School in Madrid, so this massive university in Madrid dealing with thousands and thousands of the visa processes for their students every year. Now works on our team and helps manage all of what we do paperwork wise, and she's just incredibly gifted at navigating this sort of, so I mean that's a huge component of what we do, which most people don't think about. They just think, okay, like A to Z, I'm going to apply, get a visa, move abroad. But there are so many little administrative things that you just have to do before you arrive, after you arrive. Apply for this certificate to work with minors, go ahead and apply for this, register where you're living with the local agency, that you just couldn't even begin to fathom. And it shocks me the amount of like administrative things that you have to do that I did when I was permanently like living in Spain. But like I said, we've come up with processes where we just take care of that. So that's a huge aspect.
So it was one thing, of course, coming to the country and working, but then it's a whole, as you say, and it says a whole nother thing. Is that what you say? Is starting a business.
Yeah, completely.
You
Yeah, so I
just
mean,
loved the whole process so much you wanted more of it.
yeah, exactly. And so I mean, to be totally honest, I think what really guided me to what I'm doing now was I was a teacher, loved my Spanish experience, loved my coworkers, loved my school, had a really bad experience with this company in the US, like I mentioned, that was just very unsupportive, and just didn't really, I mean, to be totally honest, I mean, they do over $1 billion a year, which is just that. I mean, they're a massive group, and so I think, and technically a nonprofit, I guess, if you believe it or not, but I think they're just so big that they don't really know how to or care to offer that like personal touch. When you're moving abroad to another country, like you need the personal touch. Anything else it's just not what you need to be set up for success. And especially if you're young, you don't speak the language, you've never been abroad before, especially by yourself, like you need someone to hold your hand. And so kind of like if anyone that's ever watched The Office, like, I kind of think we're almost like the Dunder Mifflin of exchange programs. Like that's just kind of what we do. We're just small team that works with a small group every year, even though it's a couple hundred, just to make this really personal. But I was teaching English in Spain and started also working part-time with a Spanish company that I'd met just through some connections that helped European high school athletes get athletic scholarships to go play their sport at American universities. So I worked with, really top tennis stars that, were teenagers in Germany or Sweden or Spain or Italy or Greece or something, Turkey, get scholarships to go play at the University of Alabama or Michigan State University or something. And I was the one in charge of the admissions process. So getting their visas, coordinating directly with the universities. And that was also just a further light bulb moment of like, wow, like I'm very good at this. But I see the process of how to move someone abroad from one country to another. And then like, with my teaching experience, with this experience, I was like, let's just kind of do the reverse of bringing people from North America, mostly from the US, to Spain to work in this capacity, literally doing what I did. But I actually know the paperwork process, like, and how to like actually save time, save money doing it, save stress. And then we started kind of as a little small side hustle that just within like a year was obvious, like, okay, this is a thing. And we're technically an American LLC, even though our presence is out of Spain. But that's a whole other, kind of going back to what we were saying earlier. Like the U.S. is just great for businesses and starting businesses. There's so much paperwork and red tape that you have to go through in a country like Spain to start a business. Not even just to mention tax rates and things. That it's just I literally, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now if we were an SL. It's basically a Spanish version of LLC in Spain. And so, yeah, that's more information to ask for, but that's just how we started it, and it's just kind of blossomed into what we have now.
Yeah, and I think from watching holiday TV programs or holiday rentals or buying property abroad, there's I know it's not related to your business so much, but in Spain they have different property laws, and people have come back to see
Yep.
their apartments being demolished, and
Yep.
because of lying idle for certain months of the year, or
Yep.
yeah, there's so many
Completely.
things you have to deal with, and there are probably historical reasons for all these things as well. So that
Exactly.
that don't apply to the US or other countries. So
Yep.
they
Exactly.
they do make sense. So tell me about the actual journey. So you told me about clearing up all the red tape, all the hassle, but
Yeah.
somebody who wants to join your program. So what countries? I just had a quick look at your site. You're currently
Yeah.
is it Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand? Is that right?
That's right. And that's only just, I mean, we love to help more people, but we kind of are at the mercy of, what the schools are looking for in Spain, and kind of what they tell us are the requirements. I will say 95% of the people that join our program are from the United States. So I mean, the vast, vast, vast majority are people coming from the U.S. And so, I mean, the whole process basically works. Someone maybe finds us on TikTok or Instagram or Google search, or 25% of the people that join now are just from word of mouth, which I think is a pretty cool thing. Just, alumni that have maybe chatted out with this program with their cousin who like maybe research us and wants to join. But we want to chat with every single person, and that's literally what we do. So we have like this other person on our team that I was talking about who couldn't find a place to live for a while has a face-to-face Zoom chat with people, just kind of literally asking them questions just about like themselves and like why they're interested in coming to Spain and what they're looking to get out of the experience, and how we can fit it in, and obviously kind of going over the program details. That's a good fit for them. For some people it is. For some people they don't want to pay a support fee. That's totally fine. And then anyone that's kind of interested at that point, I like to have a final chat. So even today, after we're done with this, I have 7 calls scheduled with just people that spoke with Peter just from yesterday or Friday that are interested in kind of going to the next level of our process, which is just more of a kind of an intimate conversation about the nitty gritty of how we can truly support them, on a personal level. And then they'll sign up at some point whenever they're ready to join. Then every person's assigned a specialist on our team. So we have a support team where every person is assigned an actual human that's with them the whole year in Spain. They can text and email and have Zoom calls, and this person will kind of work one-on-one with them the whole year just to navigate, okay, like getting the school assignment, coordinating that, the visa process, all that paperwork, notifying them of their school assignment, being the go-to person when like something happens or they lose their bag and they need help, or they want secondary travel medical insurance or something they don't know maybe where to go to, or whatever it is. Like we're there to kind of help with not just like the ESL teaching things, but just the life things that is 90% of moving abroad anyways. And so we have excursions, weekend trips to Portugal, weekend trips to Morocco. We don't facilitate them. We work with a group that facilitates them for the people in our program. But so there's just a lot of cool activities and things to look forward to. We were just planning yesterday. We're doing a private tour of downtown Madrid where we're going to meet up with a bunch of people. A tour company is going to do like this 2 or 3 hour walking tour. We're going to go out for some tapas and drinks on us and stuff with people that are there. And so we try to like incorporate a lot of community while they're abroad. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, most of the people that do this is just a gap year. So it's like a fun, cool adventure, like to do for a year or two before that window in your life closes and you go back and you get married, have a family, start your career. So it's this small little window that people are giving us that we try to like maximize, I guess.
So the people who join your program, it is for a gap year, and they're not going to be like lifers in ELT, are they?
Yeah, for most people, no. I will say that we have had people in our program that have come abroad, more as teachers, and they've gotten themselves integrated just in the ESL world, like with academies or private schools. They've met like their spouse in Spain. Like we have someone I was just emailing who joined our program in 2019 who met his wife, I think, in Seville, and they both work at like an English academy together. She's from Spain, and so we have a lot of those cool stories of people that are like permanently in Spain now doing their. There's someone else just a month ago was emailing, just a few weeks ago. She was in our program for 2 years. We got her set up with a master's program outside of Madrid where she just completed her master's. Now she's working with a Spanish company, permanently full-time relocated to Spain. So a lot of those cool stories, but most people I think are joining right after college, doing this for like a cool year or two, and then going back home to like pursue something else, which for us is still pretty exciting. It's a huge win that we can be like a part of that journey.
So tell me about the teaching. So the training and the placement. Well, tell me about that.
Yep. So we do all the training. So the school do a lot of training on the ground as well, but we'll do a lot of like classroom scenarios, how to fill an awkward 5 or 10 minutes. As teachers, we all have had those experiences where you're kind of done with your lesson. You're like, oh my gosh, I have like 8 more minutes I got to fill up. So it's always good to have stuff in your back pocket. But just kind of going over the expectations, like a typical day, like what to do, what to not do, obviously. So all that we go over, we just did a training scenario, we call it teaching training workshop just last month. And so, but the actual day to day, it's kind of all the best parts of teaching without any of the administrative stuff that no one likes. So you're going to be co-teaching in the classroom, like not as an assistant, not grading papers and grabbing coffee for people. Like they're actual teachers that are needed and valued in the classroom. Um, Having experience in this is not required. Like I said, like we do, this can be a first teaching position for someone. It was for myself. We do all the training to get people ready. So don't ever want to just, make someone who's like, I want to do this, but I've never taught before. Like I can't do this. So like, no, please, you're the exact sort of person we're trying to reach. Um, but you're literally just going to be engaging the students, going over the curriculum, doing small group activities, going on field trips. Um, we would always decorate like the library as a haunted house for like Halloween every year and incorporate like fun, corny English games and stuff. So I mean, it's really that sort of environment. And your co-teacher, your co-worker in the classroom, they're going to be grading, they're going to be disciplining, they're going to be meeting with parents, they're going to be doing all the staff meetings. So from 9 to 2, Monday through Thursday, because they actually have Fridays off every week. They're just engaging with the kids, and just building up the next generation of English speakers in Spain, basically. And at 2 o'clock, the responsibilities are done outside of maybe preparing somewhat for the next day. That's basically the position. And at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have the ability to travel and do obviously whatever they want to do with their time.
Fantastic. So, tell me about your journey as an entrepreneur. So you started in 2015, so you're coming up almost 10 years,
Yeah,
like EFL magazine, actually 10 years. But
that's great. Yeah.
so tell me about your journey. You started off, you told me already about how you got set. It was like you'd built up the expertise in dealing
Yep.
with admissions, and you've applied that for applicants from the US to Spain,
Hmm.
and smoothing the whole process. But
Yeah.
it's more than that. That's kind of the nitty gritty. That's working in the business, isn't it? But
Yep.
on the business, tell me more about that, about the other things, the marketing, the management.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you do everything? Have you kind of step back a
Yep.
little bit and got somebody else to manage, or what's happened? How did it start? Where are you now?
Yeah, great question. So I don't do everything now, but there was a time for a long time where I did every single thing. Um, and so I mean, we started in officially in 2017, and I think the first cycle of people that we had, I think it was like 6 people. So I mean, it's super, super small group. And before that, this was kind of like a proven thing that worked, and I knew I could do it, but I wanted to make sure that we actually could do it. Those 6 people that actually signed up for our program that first year, the goal or the agreement was, if we don't get you a visa and get you a school in Spain and get you safely to Spain set up, you don't pay us. So we worked for, well, I worked for 6 or 7 months with these people, just hoping and praying that I would be able to like actually follow through on it. And obviously we did, and we got paid. That money was just reinvested into the business. And so, but I mean, a lot of what we're doing, I just reverse engineered from other things, like this sports agency that I was a part of, like the different online portals and platforms and CRMs and how they marketed with emails and stuff. Like that just worked and it made sense. And okay, I think I could do this, but more for like an exchange program and um, podcasts and books. I've never taken a business course in my entire life, a business class. It's literally just from like my own research. And I think once I was in Spain and my back was to the wall a little bit, just like, okay, I need something else to like supplement my income. Like I kind of got scrappy and inventive, and this part of myself was just kind of born, I guess. But I mean, literally just self-taught from just digesting information, and then okay, well, that was a really like, I just got this email from this company that I signed up for that I think has a really cool whatever. That was a really cool email. I wonder how they did that. Like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if there's a way to automate that. Oh, wow. And so it just kind of snowballed every little aspect of it into what we have now. Now we have a team that manages like all the support and residency and immigration and a lot of what I do is I have the final call with people. Like I want to, before anyone joins, I want to have a face-to-face sit down 20-30 minute chat with them, which I do every single day with people and I really enjoy. And then I'm just working on like how to grow the business, how to expand, what's the next direction, like what's RVF 2.0 look like, what's our future look like. But so I mean, long story short, it's just a lot of like reverse engineering other things that I thought was like pretty unique, and then going down the rabbit hole of like, how did they do that? I wonder if we can do that. And it turns out like you can, because most of this stuff that we all use as businesses are just like online services that someone offers for $15 a month or $100 a month that you can sign up for and like use their tool just to make your business a lot more legit. So that's another thing about business I didn't realize is that, I mean, a company just has like 100 different little small things that they like subscribe to or pay for that falls in the umbrella of like their company that they then use for like marketing or branding or social media or this or that. Just these online tools basically that make the business operations like super, super easy. But that was all, I mean, super new to me because I had never been in this world until 2017.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because you told me earlier, obviously your college education was valuable and you don't regret it, but
Hmm.
learning in business is completely different, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
in college it's top down. Okay, you might do your projects or your case studies with a group, and if you're doing a business course, for example, but
Yep.
business, it's bottom up, isn't it? As you say, you have
Yeah.
to reverse engineer, you have to do everything
Yeah.
yourself. You're not, especially if you're starting a smaller businesses and scaling, you're not compartmentalized. So that's,
Yep.
you have to get your feet wet all over the place. You have to do
Yep.
so wear so many different hats, isn't it? But
Yeah.
sometimes the difficulty is being a generalist in that is that
Hmm.
we have to kind of touch on so many different things, and we're not
Yeah.
really putting as much energy or learning
Totally.
as much as we want. And then
Yep.
sometimes we kind of get stuck in one area and we kind of drill
Yep.
down too much in that one, whereas we should
Yep.
be. It's trying to find that
Completely.
balance is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. Incredibly difficult. And um, I mean, even just kind of one area is like the demographic that we're trying to look for. I think for the longest time, up until just recently, we've just drilled down very deep into education. We're looking for teachers, people that are academic focused and academic minded, and all the places where we advertise. Um, and that's a huge fraction of the people that join our program, but I think we neglected those that are maybe more experiential, that are just looking for like an opportunity. Maybe they want this professional experience, but they're not going to do this for the next 10 years. And so I think we've been a lot more balanced. But yeah, for a longest time we've gone down the rabbit hole of just the other sort of person that typically joins this sort of program, and kind of neglected the other type of person. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's weird example, but I can totally understand just like, having, blinders on and just like focusing on one thing to like the detriment of like a whole other market out there.
Absolutely, and perhaps there are other markets for you to open up as well. But
Hmm.
you're obviously doing well. But about scaling the company, so you're here. You obviously, I don't know, growth. Everybody wants growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are your ambitions for the next, let's say, short, medium, long term?
Yeah. So, I mean, with RVF, we're trying to make it more and more experiential. And so we just started, recommending and kind of, I don't know the right word, partner collaborating with a tour group based out of Seville just last month, who's doing these incredible excursions like Portugal, Sahara Desert, Morocco. And we want to be able to incorporate that into our program and what we offer, like maybe like a fall and spring trip to like, one of those two countries sort of thing that someone can look forward to as they do our program. So that those and so I mean, there's a million things there. Like when you think about bringing someone to Spain, obviously like wine tours and bodegas, and I was just having a call with our one of our directors just yesterday, just kind of on that. Like even if it's like something that's online, like why we could do like online wine tastings for the people in our program, like with Spanish wines that we work with a bodega who does like a Zoom class or something. Those are like cool, like little unique things that like, does that fall into the category of an ESL program? Probably not. Is that something that like a 22-year-old American who's never been to Spain but has heard about Spanish wine their whole life would find cool? Like, yeah, absolutely. And so I think a lot of those things we're wanting to like find and gather and incorporate. And so, I mean, we have a TEFL, course that we offer, which is a great course, but there's, it needs to go to the next level for sure. And so there's a lot of talks like, how do we make this, the next level and 2.0? And, but I mean, I think that right there is like, that's, 1 or 2 years worth of work with like a TEFL and offering more experiences. And because you have to vet them, you have to find them, you have to do a practice run. Is this actually legit? Is it safe? And this company that we're working with, actually, it's very legit. It's very safe. But offering more types of that sort of thing that someone can like pick and choose from, like while they're with us for their program year, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all happening. It's I know, as you said, most of your students do come from the US. So, for someone coming from Europe, you say, "Oh, go to Portugal." It's like it's not
Yeah,
such a big thing. I mean, Portugal is a
yeah,
beautiful country, and Spain, of course.
yeah,
But for someone from the US, it's like, "Oh my God, Portugal, Spain, Morocco."
yeah,
It's just, yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah. It
But
is. I
for
mean, a lot of people that try to join our, I mean, they don't have passports. Like I had a call yesterday with someone who's never left, and I think sometimes people abroad don't have an understanding of like how big the United States really is. Sometimes that like for us, like going to another state would be the equivalent of a European going to another country, and we haven't even left. I mean, there's what, yeah, 3, 4 time zones in the U.S. I mean, it's just crazy. But someone yesterday, they have never left the United States. Like a lot of our conversation was just kind of going back and forth on like, without trying to convince them one way or another, but like how this could be a pretty unique opportunity for them, and that they would have all the support that they could ever need. Like there is no better way to like do this than through this sort of program where you're actually going to have like a ton of kind of safety nets. And so, but yeah, I mean, to your point, that I mean, a lot of the people that are joining our program, the American audience, like a trip to Portugal, Morocco is like a dream destination that they could just do. Okay, I would only ever do that once in my life, sort of thing. But yeah, for a European, going to Portugal could be like an every summer thing easily, or like the Canary Islands. That's where everyone goes.
Exactly. I mean, what is it? 13 million people this year, and how many people live in Tenerife?
Yeah, it's
Is it
unreal. It's like a
about 2
million or
million?
something.
Yeah, a million
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Hmm.
got 13 times the population coming in.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming the way. So, regarding your free time, what do you like to do when you're not working?
Yeah. So I right now I have 2 daughters, so an almost 3-year-old and then a 4-month-old who I absolutely love and adore. And so we're definitely kind of in the midst of the diaper stage for sure. So I mean, a lot of my free time, to be totally honest, is just spent taking care of them, like playing, being an engaging dad, and then going to the store, cooking food, and like, cutting the grass, and just making sure that we have like a stable, consistent life. And so, when I do have the time, I love to read. So that's like my greatest passion in life is reading, and just trying to read things about topics that I don't know anything about. I'm really interested in those ideas of like, if someone just says like, what do you think about this? Like a lot of us naturally are just like, oh, blank, this is my response. I think this about it. And then if someone asks like, have you ever read a book? Have you ever actually studied it? Have you ever like gone in depth on it? We'll know, but like, this is just what I, kind of think about it. So, like I can go down the rabbit hole of that too, but like, I love like reading books about topics that I just never would have picked up before, being like, wow, I've actually like surprised that the reality of this is actually so different than like what I've been told it was, if that makes sense.
Exactly. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, empty vessels make the most noise. I subscribe to a
Yeah,
couple of newspapers, and people seem to be experts on everything, don't they?
yeah,
There was
exactly.
that a yacht disaster with the
Yeah,
water spout, wasn't it, last week? And
yep.
the same people who comment on like economics, or like they know about the physics of and they know about yacht building and
Yeah,
safety
exactly. All
safety
of a sudden,
protocols.
everyone's an expert
Yeah.
on, high-end expensive yachts, and yeah, there's a beauty to recognizing how little you know. I mean, isn't that well, yeah, Socrates, wasn't he, he was the wisest because he knew what he did not know or how much he didn't know. And so it's yeah, and I mean, you can learn a lot of really cool things. I mean, one of the books that I really loved was this whole book on just nuclear power, nuclear energy, and depending on who you talk to, like it's the best thing, it's the worst thing, and just kind of like diving deeper into that subject, you're like, this is really, really interesting. Or, the Quran is another book that was a very interesting that, I've never actually read before, dive deep into a historical figure. I mean, so it's just like really cool just to be like, wow, like I actually know about this topic now, if that makes sense, to some extent, but like more so than the average Joe who just like might blabber on about something that they've never once spent time to ever like investigate. But that stuff I think is interesting.
That's right, and it goes kind of hand in hand with travel, doesn't it? Broadening the
Yeah,
mind and being more
exactly.
open and
Exactly. Yep.
so if we say like the five-factor model that the psychologists use, isn't it? Openness to experience is one, isn't it? So you could
Okay.
say
Yeah, I
that
didn't know that.
a lot of maybe candidates or students they would have that, wouldn't they? I mean, you
Yeah.
notice that language learners or ELT teachers, they're very high in that, aren't they? Because you
Yeah.
go into another country, you're open to a culture,
Completely.
and people who learn language are naturally open to
Yeah.
cultures. I know here, especially in Japan as well, that openness to experience as a national trait, I don't think would be so high. But as
Yeah.
outliers,
Uh-huh.
a lot of students they would be like very open about like immigration, all these things.
Yeah.
Not saying giving political opinions on any of these
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's just generally how they are. So
Yeah.
ELT and language learning does attract a certain kind of person, doesn't it?
It does, and I don't think I would have even thought to put it in those terms. But that's yeah, perfect descriptor. Like openness to experiences, just high in openness, and that is the sort of person that joins our program. And even on the reverse, anytime we've ever had someone not have a good experience in Spain, it's almost always because they're not like high in openness, open to new like because the things that rub people the wrong way that join our program, and you'll find this like shocking, but the biggest complaint we got last year, because we send out surveys every 6 months, like when they arrive, when they finish, like how was the year, what can we improve on, what was your experience like, what did you wish you had had, would you recommend our program? The biggest complaint we got from people was that they were shocked by how much Spanish was spoken in Spain. And they were saying that they wish we had prepared them more for how much Spanish they were going to be surrounded by. And that was something I didn't even think that you had to prepare someone about. Like that, where do you think the name comes from? And so, but that right there would just tell me that these were probably people that were not very high in openness. Because for a lot of people, that's an exciting adventure to be a foreigner in another country and to be like to have this adventure of just like, wow, I'm gonna like learn their language. I'm gonna integrate myself with them, learn to live how they live, adopt some things that I never would have. But for a certain type of person that is probably not a good fit for our program, unfortunately, those sorts of things just really rub them the wrong way. But that's the whole experience of going abroad and doing this. So yeah, it's a really good way to kind of categorize it.
Yeah, I wasn't as surprised as I could have been because there was before even Facebook or social media, we used to get like PowerPoint sent around and email,
Yeah,
wasn't there, with jokes on them. And one of them
yeah.
was actual, you can, if I can put it in the show notes, I'll dig it out somewhere.
Yep.
And actual complaints to travel companies. You probably have seen this
Oh,
one way in the past. And it's like
yeah,
that. One
yep,
complaint was that they were all speaking Spanish. Nobody told us that.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
there
exactly.
was
Yeah,
fish in the sea. Nobody told us there'd be fish in
yeah,
the
exactly.
sea.
I got wet when I went diving. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but there are people that are surprised by those things, and yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher for sure. And so,
The beach was too
yeah,
sandy. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Literally, yes, yeah,
So if people want to work with you, are you mentioned a little bit about partnerships you have with travel
yeah.
companies. So as regards business partnerships, what kind of people would you like to work with or open to work with? Not maybe not now, but as things progress, maybe in the future that it would be a future,
Yeah.
revenue stream or pathway for you.
Yeah, so like speaking of open to all avenues and conversations, and I love sitting down with people and just even kind of learning more about their businesses. I think for some business owners, maybe that at least in my experience, I could be totally wrong, like can feel like intimidating for them. Like I don't want to talk to another business owner because I don't want them to know my secrets and then they might adopt this and steal this idea. But like I think that it's, you know, feeling very secure in what we do. It's like it's just fascinating to sit down and be like, wow, like I'm impressed by like what you do. Like I think our people would totally benefit from it. Like that's great. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and be all things. Like we can actually like do what we do really well, this small little thing, and then just like, you know, work with people that are experts in what they do. And so yeah, in terms of a new direction, I think I know I kept saying it, but like experiences I think would just be huge. And then also security. And so what I mean by that is we have so many people that join our program, and we want them to feel secure. We want them to feel secure in like housing. We want them to feel secure in their insurance. We want them to feel secure if like something were to happen while they're abroad, that they feel safe, that they have someone that can reach out to them. And so I was even talking to a company. I guess I won't name them, but like they're based out of the U.S. This was just last month, and they offer like medical evac. So if you're ever 150 miles away from your home at a hospital for any reason whatsoever, you could just have a paper cut and you're at the hospital, or you could have something very serious. You just literally call a number and they will have a like private like medical evac jet or helicopter fly to your location on the ground. They coordinate with the hospital, they talk to the families, and then once you're stable, they'll literally take you to any hospital in the United States at all, like any hospital. And so like, and on the plane ride, even if you have to cross the Atlantic, they'll have doctors and nurses on the plane with you. And so obviously that's the sort of thing that I would hope no one in our program, any program, would ever have to use. But like that's a cool service that just to have in your back pocket that we can recommend to people. And so those are avenues that I never thought we would probably like explore, but like offering kind of the full package of like while you're abroad and doing this independent thing with our support, like you have all this plethora of options just for safety and security and insurance and stuff. So those are really cool areas, the experiences. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like what we're doing here, I think it falls in that category too. Yeah, I mean, TEFL. So there's a lot. I mean, anything that we could offer to the people in our program, I think is like a cool avenue of like growth. Whether it's like some sort of course or certification or experience. Or even partnering with like with rental agencies, maybe in Spain, where we could, instead of just like helping someone find an apartment, which is what we do, we can be like, we actually have apartments for you on the ground that you know, through this partnership with an agency, we rent out with them or something. Not to say that we get a kickback from that, but just having that connection of just like, there's like 500 units a year that like we basically bring our people to, and they just have a guaranteed setup place before they even sign up for the program. So those are cool things that we're trying to explore.
And the important part about the evac is that the health insurance is paid. You're not going, because you know in the US it's if
A nightmare.
Yeah,
Yep.
you probably student loans, forget about it. It would shadow in comparison, I think, to the price of
exactly. Yeah, 100%. And that's another cool thing that people in our program just love is like coming to Spain. They have this free health insurance that's great. It's top notch. And I feel like I was knocking Spain so much at the beginning. Like Spanish healthcare is phenomenal, the way that they structure and organize it. And I remember when I moved to Spain, before I had my health insurance card, I had out of nowhere the worst ear infection. I've never get ear infections, but of course, you know, I just arrived to Spain, didn't have my health insurance card, had a really bad ear infection. I went to like the local Centro de Salud, which is like the doctor's office that correspond to my neighborhood. And I was just like this, thinking if I were in the US, this wouldn't go well. But like, I was like, I don't have my health insurance card. I'm in so much pain. Can I literally just pay you money to help me? And they're like, no, don't worry about it. Like the ear specialist comes tomorrow. Just come back tomorrow. They'll take care of you. Here's your appointment. And I showed up the next day and she took care of me, gave me some supplies and stuff that I could take home. And I was totally fine. I didn't have to pay a penny, because it was all about like, we actually just went like, you're a human who needs help. We're going to help you. And so that was the mentality, which is, I feel like very different sometimes than what we have here. But so that, yeah, Spain does that so well, and it's really awesome.
Well, on that positive note, Harrison, we'll leave it there for today. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the EFL Magazine Business Podcast with Philip Pound. For more great advice and resources, check out EFLmagazine.com. If you found this podcast helpful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time.